Welcome back to Minute Reviews, and Solo Leveling hands down just dropped its best episode this season. The animations were incredible, the camera work was impeccable, the action and the choreography were going crazy. I mean, look at this scene, how can you not be hyped? We begin with Jingwoo accepting the job change quest and entering the high-rank dungeon where we see a menacing figure awaiting his arrival. Inside the dungeon, Jingwoo can't use potions or full recovery to heal his injuries. All of a sudden, he hears footsteps approaching and he prepares for battle. As the armored knight charges, Jingwoo immediately speed blitzes it, but the knight shrugs off his attacks. Now this was the moment I knew this episode would be special. The way the camera angle kept shifting perspectives made it so immersive. We've also got to keep in mind that this is a regular enemy and it's out here throwing combos like it's a mid-level boss. Since Jingwoo's daggers can't penetrate the knight's armor, he uses his fatal strike skill to rip it apart with his bare hands. More knights show up and Jingwoo continues to mow through them, but his stamina and mana are draining fast. Before he can even catch his breath, an assassin using the stealth skill appears behind him, but Jingwoo is able to react just in time. Another attack is fired from the distance by a monster utilizing light magic. As he faces the onslaught of attacks, Jingwoo realizes the dungeon is making him revisit his past battles almost like a rite of passage. The armored knights are reminiscent of the monstrous boss Kasaka and require overwhelming might to break through their armor. The stealth enemies are based off his epic battle with the psychopath assassin Taishik and require keen perception. And finally, the holy mages and archers are based off the massacre that occurred in the C-rank dungeon, with the archers requiring incredible agility to avoid their arrows. The only problem though is the mages. Since Jingwoo hasn't invested much in his intelligence stat to boost his magic defense, he can't afford to get hit by the blast. Jingwoo's facing attacks from all angles, and we've got to talk about the movement. It was so smooth and clean. Like this scene where he uses the assassin to block the mage's attack, grabs the arrow mid-air and uses it to break the attack. If the fight against these mobs is this good, you can only imagine the epicness that's about to take place when he faces the boss. Jingwoo eventually defeats all the monsters and uses the drops from the enemies to recover his strength. The knights also dropped high-level gear pieces that Jingwoo equips to greatly increase his physical defense. The armor is also really convenient because it turns invisible, preventing our boy from standing out and drawing attention to himself. Jingwoo's going to need every piece of armor he can find because he's about to face the greatest challenge of his life. Jingwoo heads to the boss room and arrives at a massive door with an elaborate design. As he opens the door, a massive gust of wind bursts forth, sending chills down his spine. The door closes and flames begin to illuminate the room, revealing an empty throne. A blood-red knight emerges from the shadows, and Jingwoo, sensing death, immediately pulls out his daggers. From the sight of the knight to the sounds it's making to the way it feels, Jingwoo's body instinctively remembers. The pressure he's feeling is on the same level as the demonic dungeon that granted him his power. Standing before him is the Knight Commander Igris the Blood Red, a legendary enemy that's about to push Jingwoo's soul to its very limits. In the blink of an eye, Igris instantly closes the gap and releases a powerful sword swing, decimating the surrounding pillars. The force of the knight swings are so strong that Jingwoo can't even block or parry properly. Igris is dismantling pillars like Sukuna cleaves through high schools. Igris flings Jingwoo into the air, fires off energy blasts, and before Jingwoo can recover, follows up with another devastating swing. With their speed being relatively equal, Jingwoo manages to dodge the attacks by the skin of his teeth, but he's still at an immense disadvantage. He refuses to let the knight set the pace of the fight and unleashes a high-speed flurry of attacks, and the action and the animations were going crazy. Like this scene where he leaves the dagger mid-air, rotates his body to build momentum and drives the weapon into Igris' side. His attacks are still ineffective though, and the Blood Knight nearly splits him in half. Jingwoo realizes his daggers aren't strong enough to penetrate the boss's armor and switches his strategy to hand-to-hand combat. I don't think I've ever seen this before, but the dungeon boss looks at Jingwoo and it also tosses its weapons away. It wants Jingwoo to know that whether it's with weapons or straight hands, he will catch his ass whooping. Even though I'm rooting for Jingwoo, I gotta admit that's pretty damn cool. The all-out slugfest is about to begin and only one will remain standing. The final round begins with Igris upping its speed even further and gut-checking Jingwoo straight into the ground. Jingwoo's flung into the wall and the knight unleashes a brutal melee rush that completely pulverizes him. Jingwoo even notes that he probably would have died had he not equipped the armor from the first room. Jingwoo activates his newly evolved dash skill and raises his speed to the next level, and the way the camera kept darting around and shifting perspectives made this seem so immersive and engaging. Despite Jingwoo's attacks being so incredibly fast, Igris activates Ultra Instinct, and not only does the knight dodge every single attack, it follows up with a downward sweep and launches him into the air. He's still not done and rips out a piece of the ground, flings it at Jingwoo, rushes at him mid-air and beats him to the ground. These next scenes were where the animations in the episode ascended to the next level. The choreography during this high-speed exchange of blows was insane. Like A1 Pictures, what have y'all created? Y'all did not have to cook this hard! Jingwoo unleashes a whirlwind kick and finally lands a clean hit on Igris. The comeback is about to begin, or so I thought. This is where shit hits the fan because the Crimson Knight unleashes some of the biggest ass beatings I've seen in anime. Like, my goodness. He's whooping this man like he owes him lunch money. He's beating him like he's killed his family. You gotta fight back, Jingwoo. Please, you have to fight back! As Jingwoo sits on the empty throne about to be finished off, he grabs Igris' sword, summons his dagger, and stabs the Knight Commander in the eye. Our boy refuses to give up and proclaims that he still has not lost. Once again, shout out to the voice actor because the way he's able to convey such powerful and raw emotions is simply incredible. Igris pulls out the dagger and attacks Jingwoo with it, but it disappears back into the inventory, and Jingwoo, who accounted for this, immediately summons it back and pierces Igris' throat. It's still not enough, the wound is still too shallow, and Jingwoo goes even further beyond and launches consecutive chains of fatal strikes, putting everything he has on the line. This scene gave me literal chills. The sound, the music, the screams, the raw emotion, everything combined perfectly to bring an end to this legendary battle. The dungeon rewards do not disappoint, and our boy gets some amazing loot. Jingwoo notices something isn't quite right, and ominous music begins playing. The Dark Souls experience is about to start. Several black orbs instantly appear throughout the boss room, and the system notifies Jingwoo that the true job quest is about to begin. He has to survive for an indefinite amount of time in order to earn enough advancement points to ascend to a higher class. An endless wave of monsters pour out the portals, and since there's no way for Jingwoo to defeat such an absurd number of enemies, he activates his stealth skill to buy him as much time as possible. The mage appears from the sky and breaks the stealth skill, and the monsters immediately turn to him. With his health and mana running low as well as almost being out of stamina, Jingwoo makes his last stand as an impossible number of enemies charge at our boy and the episode ends. Damn. If you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I cover tons of anime from the most popular to the most obscure, from seinen to comedies, from shonen to mysteries. Whatever your flavor is, I got you covered. Or will get you covered in the future, probably. With that being said, see you guys next week. Peace.